Hi guys, and I am Saleh. We are back again. This is your favorite show, the Chad English Show. One more time with very fantastic guest, as you know him. Doesn't need to be introduced, but I will get back to Abakar and then we get back to his accent.
All right, we've been invited to attend a great event, which is to commemorate the Independence Day of the United States of America, and it was such a good moment and informative moment for us. And the ambassador himself gave a speech, so we would like to talk about more about the Independence Day and a little bit about the history of the United States of America.
Great.
Go ahead.
So, Ambassador, so what for July 1776 means to you exactly?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming. And I am your biggest fan. The Chad English Show, you guys are the best. You're pioneers, your viral video, and I love talking to you. And I know you have a lot of Chadians, a lot of people who follow you. So thank you for coming, and thank you for letting me speak to you again. You know, one of the things I said in my speech was the American Revolution of 1776 started as a matter of taxes, of Americans saying, we don't mind paying taxes, but if you're going to tax us, we have to be represented in your parliament. We don't want taxation without representation. And I was in Boston last week, visiting my family in the US, where this tax revolt, this American Revolution, started. And it started on the basis of you can only be governed by your consent. And I thought about Chadian history. And in Mandul in 1928, the people of Mandul essentially said the same thing to their colonial power. You know, we were fighting a colonial struggle against the British. You had the French here as the colonial power. The people of Mandul said, wait a minute, you can't tax us if we don't have authority over you. You cannot tax us without our vote, without our representation. So it just strikes me that very different times, very different cultures, very different continents, but the same principle of people saying, we don't mind government, we don't mind being taxed, but any government that rules us, we have to have a say in. That's a very Chadian and American mentality.
Right. So,
Yeah, I will come on the national anthem that the children sang during the event. Can you tell us the story beyond this beautiful national anthem of America?
Well, we have two very musical families in our embassy, our defense attaché and our political counselor, and their kids are all singers, and so we decided, why don't we get a group of young Chadians together to sing, and my defense attaché, Colonel Choate, offered to sing the American national anthem. But I said, wait a minute, why don't you sing the Chadian national anthem? So we had all of our American staff learn the Chadian national anthem so we could sing it. I like the optics of having, the Americans sing your national anthem and the Chadians singing ours. But our national anthem, if you listen to it, is about a battle. In the War of 1812, it's a man sitting on a ship during a battle in Baltimore in Maryland and wondering if he'd wake up in the morning, would he see the American flag flying over Fort McHenry? So this was the British bombarding the fort. It was this battle overnight. And he wrote this poem, and he said, "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?" So meaning when you wake up in the morning, when the sun comes up, will the American flag still be flying? And so it was a poem, and it later, 30 years later, became the national anthem. It's a poem by a man named Francis Scott Key. And the other thing that struck me was, so I was in Lexington, Massachusetts last week, which is really where the American Revolution started, where the farmers of Lexington resisted the British, and they fired the first shots of the American Revolution. And one of our great national poets, Ralph Waldo Emerson, said they fired the shot heard round the world, meaning that what happened in this small village in Lexington, Massachusetts, reverberated throughout the world. I think it still does, and I think that's what the 4th of July means to me. It's a very American holiday, but we also think it's a universal holiday.
Yeah, it's universal. So on that note, I want to strike one question from it. As a Chad in Central Africa country, we go through a lot, like lack of eating, lack of drinking, like pure water and everything. But when we look at the other countries, like the West countries and everything, like there is a lot of differences. But some of the countries that speak French, they are not that in that level. But comparing to other countries that speaking English, you can see that there is a lot of development growing. So what is that
first
thing?
of all, I don't know if I fully agree with that. I love Senegal.
Yeah.
I spent lots of time in Dakar, and I think the Senegalese have done a good job. I think they've created, a healthy democratic system. I think they've created a government that is responsive to the needs of the people. You see kids in school, you see good hospitals, you see a well-educated population. And I saw yesterday that President Macky Sall has elected not to seek a third term. So I would not link language, English or French, to the quality of governance. I think Benin has historically been a well-governed country, and there are Anglophone African countries that are also, unfortunately, in bad shape. So the point I'm making is, the French political system and the American political system have very similar roots, have very similar origins in the philosophy of Rousseau and Montesquieu and Alexis de Tocqueville. So we were deeply influenced by the French Enlightenment of the 18th century. And so I don't have an opinion as to whether or not one should speak French or one should speak English, or one should have an American-style system or a British-style parliamentary democracy or a French-style central system. But to me, the key is the people get a vote. Whether they're Americans, Chadians, Senegalese, Beninois, let the people decide.
Right, and then people decide, guys, all right?
Yeah, on that note, I just want to say, during your speech, you said you have visited or you have seen almost all of the region of Chad, from south to east.
Not quite, but I'm working on it.
You're working on it. All right, but my question is, how do you see Chad in the next 5 years, for example, or 10 years?
First of all, the way I see Chadians working. And we joke about the V8s, the V8s. Okay, they work too, but the real Chadians, 85% of you who make less than $5 a day. I'm just very curious. How do you make a living? So, I talk to kids, the motorcycle taxis. I talk to the kids washing rugs on the Shari River, the fishermen, the farmers, the herders. The people washing the clothes on the river. People making brick out of it's out of the brown mud, and Mao it's the white mud brick, and so what I take away is a deep respect for how hard Chadians work, and particularly Chadian women, and above all Chadian mothers. Right. So Chadian mothers work all day, and then they go home and they cook and they clean and they take care of their children and other people's children and anyone who happens to come. I don't know where they get the energy, but God bless them. So my point is, Chad should not be this poor. Because you work, but Chadians, sunrise to sundown, are working, and I think it's unfair that the people who work the hardest have the least. So I think the goal of public policy is to reward labor. If you're willing to work from sunrise to sundown, frankly, you should be better off. You should be making more than $5 a day, and I think you achieve that through good governance. And I think you achieve good governance through competitive politics. Okay, you get a chance, see how you do. Someone else comes along and say, hey, I can do better. Okay, you give it a shot. And then 4, 5, 6 years later, hey, I think I can do better than you. And I think that's how we progress. So so we're at a transition here. I'm an optimist by nature. There are challenges, but the goal here is not, I think this party should win or that party should win or that candidate should win or that candidate should win. The goal here is there should be a debate and there should be a competition, and the people who Chadians want to rule them should rule by their consent. That's the essence of the American Revolution, which is the role of government is to protect people who consent to be protected by government.
Yeah, one last question from your speech. You said that different parties, they have to sit together, they have to think about the interests of the country before their own interests. So what is the one thing that you can say to the Chadian parties that they can stay together and they can think about it?
One of the many things I respect about Chad is you guys always sit together.
Right.
Chadians have a remarkable ability to talk to each other. Even, frankly, Chadians who've been to war with each other, who've put each other in prison, who've put each other into exile. It's a remarkable talent that Chadians have, that you come back and you reconcile and you take on senior positions in government. So the problem is not the lack of dialogue, because frankly you're better at it than Americans. I think Chadians might come to the United States and give us some lessons on how to talk to your opponents. So dialogue is not the problem in Chad. But I think to a certain extent there's almost a lack of imagination. People say, okay, Chad's poor, it's going to stay poor, and so we have to fight over a very small pie. I'm an American, I'm a capitalist, I believe in growing the pie. Right? If there's more for everyone, everyone's happy. And so I think economic growth is one of the things that will help Chad emerge from his poverty. I also think good governance is necessary. And the last time President Deby spoke at the opening of the Bar Association, he talked about the fight against corruption.
Right.
And I agree with him. Corruption is a disease in my country and your country, worldwide. And what fights corruption? Well, strong laws, strong institutions of justice that protect the public interest against the private agendas. Whether it's American or Chadian, it's all the same.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for having answered to my 2 questions. And yeah, thank you for that.
You guys are the best.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
God
guys.
bless you.
All right.
And guys, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys, and keep sharing the whole thing. And we may have other
they're
guests.
awesome. They're such
And
good kids.
see you soon then.